Alright, hello everybody, what's going on? We are here, back with another week of Overwatch League Pick'ems. So, we are now up to week number 3 for the mid-season madness. Getting pretty close to the end here, as you can see. Only one more week to qualify after this one. So, very important, a lot of games going on. Taking a quick look back at our week 2 predictions. Not good, not good in the East. This is real rough. As you can see, we were 3 of 4. Valiant scoring an upset. Dynasty looked incredibly good. We needed to calibrate a little bit. It is what it is. We didn't expect Shanghai to go 0-6. I don't think pretty much anybody did. But in any case, so a little bit rough there. We got to build off that, learn from some of our mistakes. And then for the West week 2, pretty good. We got 3 wrong. 6 and 3, it's decent. We nailed the double points, so that's always a plus. But definitely some room for improvement there as well. So, without further ado, we're going to jump in, running through the East region first. Once again, 7 matchups to go. Once again, they're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week. As you can see from when this video is coming out and on the the schedule right here. So we got Philly Fusion taking on Hunzhou Spark. So the Spark looked really good coming out. Philly looked pretty inconsistent. They were very, very, very dominant against the Valiant for the first half, and then got reverse swept. And it even seemed like they had the third map in hand for a bit, and it really slipped away. One of the craziest reverse sweeps I've seen, just because it seemed very, very, very one-sided to Philly's direction for the first 2 and really a half maps, and then it all came crashing down for them. Again, Spark looked really good. I'm gonna go with the Spark in this one. I'm gonna say 3-1. Between Alpha Yi, between Shy, they have really nice coverage on the DPS characters that are good right now. Gushui, Bernard, this is a team that is really versatile, and they're extremely well suited for this meta. They got tanks that can cover pretty much everything they need. And like I said, they have versatile DPS, but they also have DPS that the heroes that are good right now, Tracer, Sojourn, Echo. For some teams, Sombra, they have really good players at those particular heroes. So I think that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think that the goal for them is going to be, stay strong and then really finish and play well in the playoffs this time. Because last time, they were 5-1 in the qualifiers, but then failed when we got to the playoffs. So I think that Spark is probably the second best team right now in the East. And I think that they take Philly down. Next, you got the Guangzhou Charge taking on the Hunters. So this is an interesting one. Both these teams have looked pretty solid. Had a little bit of a heartbreaker for a couple of them. I'm going to go with the Hunters here. Hunters had some very close losses. They went down in 5 maps to Seoul, which is, absolutely nothing to be ashamed of at all. And then they did take down the Philly Fusion, as you can see. So things are looking up for them. I think that they're starting to really dial it in, and they're going to be a team to watch going forward. They're trying to hop the Fusion right now in the overall standings, as Fusion is at 5 points because they got a couple of playoff wins last time, and Chengdu right now is at 3. So they're trying to make up some ground, and I think they do make up some ground. Charge have looked okay, but for me, Hunter's definitely the stronger team. Next, the Charge doesn't get any easier for them, as they have to take on Seoul afterward. We're going to roll with the Dynasty 3-0 here. They look incredibly good right now. They dominated Shanghai. Pretty much anything you could ask for, this team has. We went over this in, preseason. I'm trying to remember what I had them in my power rankings, but they were either 6 or 4. Either way, probably a little low. They definitively look like, right now with how last stage played out and how these ones are going, you have to say that it's Seoul and Gladiators tied right now as best teams in the league. But in any case, we have a couple chances for charge here, but I don't see it going very well for them at all. After that, it's a very interesting one in the Hunters taking on the Valiant. So, Valiant looked pretty solid last week. Like I said, they scored the nice reverse upset versus Fusion, and then were able to take down the Charge 3-1. So definitely things looking up for them. Up to 3 victories on the season now. Pretty good. They're right in that range. They're tied with Chengdu. A couple behind Philly. Only a couple behind Shanghai at this point. So really important match for both of these teams. For me, though, I think this meta matches up a little bit better for the Hunters. This one is going to be back and forth. I think it goes the distance, but I have the Hunters taking it down. I like their compositions they've run a little bit more. Valiant have gone with a couple of the double hit scans where you've seen the Soldier and the Ashe. It's worked in spots, but overall, I just think the Hunters are a bit more suited for this meta. I know some people were like, well, what's Jinmu gonna play? Because Leave is insane on Tracer, and he's pretty good on the Soldier as well. A lot of people expect him to be extremely good on that, but you can't play both of them. And a lot of times you want both. Jinmu's not a natural Tracer player, but they've really made it work. With Jinmu playing Tracer a couple of maps, playing the the Echo at points, also Sombra being used for them. I just like them a little bit more overall than the Valiant right now, but I see this as an extremely close match that could swing either way. Next, you got Philly Fusion taking on Shanghai, so an absolutely terrible week from Shanghai. Did play some pretty strong teams, but got to see improvements from them. It's just something about them starting off slow in a lot of these stages, and this season, there's definitely something missing. I really believe that they had the best tank synergy in the league last year, and it was a big reason why they won. And the 5v5 just doesn't feel natural for them yet. It still feels like they want to be playing those 2 tanks together, but they can't. You can't do it right now. So, while it's unfortunate, they can't roll Fate together with Void, I think they're still good enough to beat Philly. I'm going to say 3-1. Just because Philly, some of the compositions they've run out are kind of It seems like a lot of times when they sub out Carpe, they lose some of that success. They're trying the 3-man rotation in terms of DPS, but they just don't quite feel comfortable in this meta either. And I think Shanghai is going to start to bounce back here. Seoul Dynasty versus Hunzhou Spark. Again, could be back and forth. 2 very good teams here. I'm going to say the Dynasty 3-1. They still look like pretty much the best team in the East. It's at this point, it's can somebody else prove that they could beat them? We saw them take down everybody that they needed to last playoffs. They beat Shanghai. They swept Philly. In the finals themselves. So this is the team to beat, and I think that they are going to be top dogs in the East for a while. And then we top off with Shanghai versus LA Valiant, and we're going to go with an upset special here. I'm going to say the Valiant take this one down 3-2. Again, just more comfortable in this meta, better reads. So their support line has been playing very well in my estimation. And, Dia has been really, really clutch. One of the big reasons why they were able to score that reverse sweep. He swapped to Widow and just started putting in work on Watchpoint Gibraltar. And he's been really solid all season. So I like the Valiant here. They've been improving more and more every single week. And I think that they, have a couple of close matches. And I think that they pull it off against the struggling Dragons. So there is our East predictions. It's time for the West now. Paris Eternal versus London Spitfire. Paris is a head scratcher to me because I thought they looked much improved week 1. It more must have just been bad competition. It felt like they were starting to get a little bit of momentum with Wub. And Dove played really well, his first couple of weeks. But he struggled last week. He got diffed for a while. He was getting shut down on the Tracer. Wub doesn't look entirely comfortable on the Sojourn, and I just think they're in a bit of a weak place right now. I think this is a 3-0 by London. Sparker has looked great on the Sojourn. They're really adept at using this Reinhardt comp, of course. It feels like, their call outs and their cohesion and coordination is better than it has been, in years since season 1 when they added, of course, an entirely different roster and ended up winning that league. But in any case, I think that London are, between the two European teams, London is clearly the better team right now, and it isn't very close in this matchup. We do have an interesting one after this, though. Houston Outlaws versus Atlanta Reign. Now, Houston's coming off an 0-3. It was to Gladiators. They had a bad C9 on watch point. It was bad. But they looked like a strong team before, so it's kind of tough. They played the Gladiators. That's a really tough draw. The Gladiators are really, really good right now. Them and Shock, I feel like, have quite distanced themselves. So we got two upper mid teams, in Houston and Atlanta. They've both looked really solid. And my heart keeps telling me Houston, but my mind is telling me Reign. My brain's like, no. Stop rooting against Reign. I think they're the better team in this one by a little bit. OG has played very well, when they've asked him to do, some of the double flex, support. He's obviously a main support by trade, and a Lucio main, but he's been solid on the Ana and some of the other heroes when called upon. Ultraviolet is very good on the Zen. I think they're just a little bit better in terms of how they play with their tank. With Houston, it either looks really, really solid, especially when Dante's in. They either look really, really good, or it looks disjointed and dysfunctional, and it's just not good. And over the course of a series, I just think Atlanta is more consistent. We talked, Kai is just so good on the Soldier and any hit scan. And while Houston obviously, has dogs too, it's just not quite there. Finale, sorry, not Finale, that's Toronto. They're very good, but Atlanta's just a little bit better. I want to see from Atlanta more Piggy in, playing either the Sig, probably mostly Sig, maybe some Doomfist. I don't know if he's practiced it too much. I want to see Dante on the Tracer, and I want to see Pelican, on whatever else they have, whether it be Sojourn or something else, because I think that's pretty much their win condition. I need Dante to get out there, or Pelican on the Tracer, I suppose, and really just beat out Venom in terms of value. But I don't think that's going to quite happen. I like Atlanta's team overall a little bit more, and I think they win a good series. Toronto versus Gladiators. We're going to take LA 3-0 here. Again, Toronto doesn't really seem well adjusted. If you keep running Winston, I know they've made some changes, but it's just not going to be great. Revenge game for Muse. He was a Gladiator last season, but if they run Muse, he's probably going to be on Winston, and that's just an L in this meta if you're playing a good team. Even if they have Hotba in, which they've looked better with him in, I still think it's Gladiators winning this one pretty easily. Vancouver Titans versus San Francisco Shock. I don't like to be negative and rag on players or teams, on this channel. As you guys know, they're obviously insane players. They're all much better than me, and 99% or 100% of you guys out there, they're professionals. Obviously, they're insanely good. But when we talk about them and we measure teams, we're not measuring them against casual players. We're not measuring them against plats, diamonds, silvers, masters even. We're not measuring against those players. We're measuring them against their peers. We're measuring them against the best players in the entire world. And Vancouver's match against Dallas was one of the most brutal things I've ever watched in my life. Please don't say Dallas clutched and they showed the winner intangible stuff like that. The first two maps were just absolutely unmitigated, unacceptable chokes. It was awful, and I feel bad for the Titans players. I feel bad for their coaching staff. I feel bad for their fans. I don't like to talk about this kind of stuff, but it was terrible. So this is a team they're finding ways to lose. They're either getting blown out, or when they're really competitive, they're close, they're in stuff. They just can't convert when it matters most. So it's rough. In their defense, they've had a very tough schedule. This stage, it's not getting any easier. As you can see, they're playing the Shock, winless versus perfect in the regular season. This is a 3-0 for Shock. I'm not going to say much more for it. Shock look really good, super coordinated. To me, they look, even though they were undefeated, obviously, last stage and this one, they look a lot better in this stage for me. They look more comfortable. Their coordination is better. Maybe it's just, time since a lot of them are new, or maybe this meta just fits them a bit better, but that one is a blowout for me. Washington versus Gladiators. So I don't love predicting a lot of 3-0s, but we've seen a lot of 3-0s, and I think we're going to continue to see a good amount this week. Gladiators better top to bottom. Washington has really struggled when they play, the very high-end teams. They had a close one against Shock in the playoffs last time around in the kickoff clash, but a lot of times they've looked a bit rough, and when they go down early, it's pretty tough for them. So I got the Gladiators in that one. I thought they looked pretty good week one. They had a little bit of a weaker road. The last two matches, they looked really, really good for me. I do think they've established themselves as, probably 1A to San Francisco's 1B. I can't wait for those two teams to match up. But in this one, I got Gladiators winning pretty easily. Next, Paris versus Toronto. A couple of teams that have been struggling a bit. I think this one's definitely more competitive. We're going to go with the Defiant, though. I think that they have started to make that turn, started to realize what heroes are good. I can't really get that last matchup, Paris and Boston, where, Boston looked good, we'll give them credit, but Paris also, a lot of that momentum that I felt like was building up, I think we can, after this week, we'll be able to say, okay, they just beat a very weak New York team. New York has been weak all season, and it was obviously a match that was super close, went down to the absolute wire. New York very well could have won it. They only needed to win one more fight. But Paris did end up taking that down. So Toronto, while both of these teams have struggled a little bit, Toronto is still the more solid team in my eyes. Next, you got London Spitfire taking on Washington Justice. We're going to take London here. I think Washington makes it pretty close. I still think they're a pretty solid team, but London looks really good right now. They have absolute confidence, and unless they play a team, I don't think they're going to get punished for playing a lot of Rhine unless they play a team like Los Angeles or San Francisco, to be completely honest with you. It isn't easy to counter. They have extremely good coordination with it. Backbone has been really good on May when they've used him on certain maps. I guess we talked about Sparker already, how good he is. So it's a tough draw for Washington. Poco's look really nice too if they want to go to the more standard Sigma compositions. So, while Washington is decent, I think they get a bad draw this week and they go 0-2. The double points, we got Dallas Fuel taking on New York. So, obviously it was a disastrous start for Dallas week 1. Week number 2, as you can see, they brought it back a bit. They 3-0'd Florida, which I big whiffed on that one. And then they 3-0'd Vancouver. But like I said, that Vancouver match, in my opinion, again, I obviously don't know everything, but in my opinion, they should have lost the first 2 maps. And would they have reverse swept anyway? Probably. They won the third map pretty convincingly, and I definitely could have seen them, reverse sweeping that one. But as it stands, they're not a super strong team. Fortunately for them, New York is in shambles right now, and I don't know what it is. They have the players. Kellen is a really good player. I know he hasn't really shown it because, this is his first year and it's been really rough, but he's a great tank player. Their DPS line is great. They have really good, veteran support players. There's just something is wrong with this team, and I don't know what it is. It's either, the players just, while they're good individually, they just cannot work as a team. Their coaching staff is just whiffing on preparation. they just can't perform when they actually get in a match. I don't know what it is, but it's a mess right now. I'm going to pick Dallas 3-0. They have looked at least improved, and they've shown that, against the mid to lower tier teams, they can still dominate them, and that is what New York is right now. Finally, cap it off, we have Florida Mayhem taking on the Boston Uprising. So Florida had a nice little start, then they kind of got smacked around by Dallas. Boston, a couple of rough ones towards the beginning, but they looked really solid when they took down Paris. So this is one that kind of makes me think, it's like these are two, middle, I would say definitely middle, maybe more middle, lower for Boston tier teams. But when Boston runs Punk, they look good. They really do. When they go the more off tank, when they try for the more main tanky compositions, it's been rough. So, for me, this one is just pick one. It can go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if either team, takes it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's really close. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a blowout. We're going to go Boston 3-1, though. Florida still looks like they have some slight cohesion issues, especially with their back line to tank. And some of their dives. Checkmate's been very solid this season overall on the Tracer. Hydron is honestly the X factor. I think he kind of needs to carry, and he has before on the Sojourn. But in this one, I don't quite think he gets it done. Like I said, I think that Punk is able to really, do a lot of things that are going to limit the DPS of Florida Mayhem. And Boston's support line has looked really solid last week. So I think that they're going to get it done and win a fun matchup versus Florida. So there you have it. Predictions for week number 3. Again, it's heating up. We're getting to that point where it's starting to get downhill for the the qualifiers of this this tournament cycle. We're doing okay for points. Can we view the leaderboard? Yeah, so 5,000. Not terrible. 24 off of the leader. Again, it is a bit rough to the East. The East really kind of kicked our butt last week, so hopefully we bounce back this week, have a good week. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Any disagreements that you got. Who do you think is going to be performing well, or who do you think is going to be having some troubles this week? Curious to know what you have to say. But other than that, thank you as always so very much for watching. I hope you have yourselves a wonderful weekend as we already get into June. Crazy, summer is flying by. But I will see you guys in the next one.